You have been alive since the moment you were born. You felt hunger. You heard voices. You saw faces. You laughed. You cried. You learned to walk. You said your first word. Somewhere in your earliest years, you had moments of pure joy, confusion, fear, wonder, moments that shaped the person you eventually became. And you remember absolutely none of them. Not a single frame. Not one moment. The first years of your life are gone. A complete blank, and most people never stop to ask why. They assume it is simple. You were too young. Your brain was not ready, but that explanation does not hold up, because the truth of what actually happened to your earliest memories is one of the strangest things neuroscience has ever uncovered. Your baby brain was not failing to record your life. It was recording everything. Your memories existed. Something destroyed them. Your brain could remember. It just could not keep the memories. In the 1980s, a psychologist at Rutgers University named Carolyn Rovey Collier ran a simple experiment. She tied a ribbon from a baby's ankle to a mobile hanging above their crib. The babies quickly learned that kicking made the mobile move, and they loved it. When she brought the same babies back days later, they remembered. They started kicking immediately. 2-month-olds held that memory for days. 6-month-olds remembered for weeks. So infant brains can learn. But by adulthood, every trace is gone. The first part of the answer lies in a small curved structure deep inside your brain called the hippocampus. This is the engine of memory formation. It takes lived experiences, a birthday, a conversation, a face, and encodes them as episodes you can later replay. But in infants, the hippocampus is severely underdeveloped. The connections between it and the rest of the brain are still being built. Key regions are not fully wired until somewhere between ages 2 and 4. So your infant brain could form short-term memories. It just could not move them into permanent storage. They formed and then dissolved, over and over, like writing in water. In 2014, two neuroscientists in Toronto made a discovery that changed how scientists think about infant memory entirely. They had a hypothesis that sounded almost impossible. What if the very process that builds your brain is also what destroys your memories? Here's what they meant. In the first years of life, your hippocampus produces new neurons at an extraordinary rate. This is called neurogenesis. It is essential. Those new brain cells wire up the circuits you will use for the rest of your life. But every time a new neuron integrates into an existing circuit, it disrupts the connections that were already there. The connections that were holding your memories. To test this, they ran experiments on mice. When they artificially increased neurogenesis in adult mice, those mice started forgetting things they had previously learned. And when they slowed neurogenesis in infant mice, those mice held onto their memories longer than normal. The conclusion was deeply counterintuitive. Your earliest memories were not lost because they were never saved. They were lost because your brain kept building new rooms and tearing down the old walls to make space. The explosion of new neurons that built you also erased you. But the strangest part has nothing to do with neurons. To form what scientists call autobiographical memory, the kind where you are the main character of an experience you can replay in your mind, you need something most people never think about. You need a sense of self. You need to understand that you exist as a person, that things are happening to you. Before roughly 18 months of age, infants do not recognize themselves as distinct individuals. There is a simple test for this. Put a mark on a baby's nose and place them in front of a mirror. Before 18 months, babies treat the reflection like another child. They reach toward the mirror, not toward their own face. After 18 months, something shifts. They reach for the mark on their own nose. They recognize themselves, and that moment, the birth of self-recognition, closely tracks with the earliest age at which lasting personal memories can form. Which means you cannot remember being a baby, partly because there was no you yet. Not in the way you experience yourself now. There was no narrator inside your head packaging experiences into a story that belonged to a person called you. And that raises a question that is difficult to sit with. If you had no continuous sense of self in the brain that held your earliest experiences, physically rewired itself beyond recognition, Is the child in your earliest photographs actually you, or is it someone else entirely? Someone who lived in the same body but whose mind was literally disassembled and rebuilt, neuron by neuron, into the person you became. There is one final piece. Language does not just describe memories, it structures them. Before you could speak, your experiences were encoded as raw sensory impressions, sounds, textures, emotions, light. But without words to organize them, those impressions had no framework to survive. Once children begin speaking, and especially once adults begin narrating their experiences back to them, remember when we went to the park? Remember what happened? Their ability to form lasting memories improves dramatically. Language gives memory a skeleton. Without it, experiences are like water with no container. They exist in the moment and then they are simply gone. So here's what actually happened to your earliest years. Your hippocampus was not ready to build long-term memories. And even when it started to, the flood of new neurons tore through the circuits holding them. You had no sense of self to anchor experiences to. And you had no language to give those experiences a structure that could survive. It was not one thing. It was everything at once. Every person alive has the same black hole where the first years of their life should be. And the reason is not that your brain was too simple or too weak. It is that your brain was doing something far more important than remembering. It was becoming you. And that required quite literally erasing the person who came before